Hello, friends. Today is April 23rd, Thursday. It has been 9 days since I installed the bees into the two hives here. To my right is Summer Island, and to my left is the hive we call Grumblewood. It was 9 days ago that we installed those hives, and since then the weather's been really kind of terrible for them. It's been very cold at night, and it's just been wet quite a lot. So we're hoping for the best. It's the first time we'll be able to go into the hives, see how they're really doing, and see if they're set up for success for the year to come. So to get started, the first thing I'm going to be doing today is replacing some of the syrup in the feeders. They've been, at this point, they've eaten about 7 of these pint jars worth of simple syrup. That's the same as about 7 pounds of sugar. They're eating at times over a pound a day. And in a pound of sugar, there's like 1,700 calories, which is about enough for a full-grown person. So that's about 4 pounds of bees eating the same amount of energy as like a 150-pound person. And what do they need all of that energy for? It's to keep the queen warm. The queen bee needs to stay at 93 degrees at all times. Even last night when it was about 29 degrees outside, inside of these hives, the queen was at 93 degrees. And they are always making sure of that, because if it gets any colder or even any hotter for her, it could permanently damage her reproductive organs, which would just compromise the future of the hive. So we have these feeders set up. I had initially set them up inside of the hive in the back chamber, but I checked in the back chamber after a couple of days and they weren't eating from them. And I'm not sure why. Last year that was okay for them, but this year it just wasn't working out. They weren't eating from them, so I've moved them outside, and since then they've been going crazy for syrup. So I'm just going to take one of the jars that wasn't out and just replace it so they can still have some food. Give you an idea of what an active one of these feeders might look like. Bees coming and going. Oh, they've all just flown away because I came over. Oh well. All right. So that's their food setup. The next thing, we're going to be going into the hive. So I have to do 2 things before I do that. I'm going to get my smoker going so that I can send some smoke into the hive before I go in. That's going to tell the bees, they're going to think there's potentially a fire in the tree that they're hived in or something like that. And so they're going to go into a mode of action where they're preparing in case they need to leave. And because they'll be so focused on preparations, they won't be so focused on me coming in. So it just makes everything a little bit safer. So I'm going to get that smoker going. I am just putting some leaves, some dried leaves, some little twigs in there to get it started up. And there you go. I'm not sure if the camera's picking up the smoke, but it sends them out just enough for my purposes. So I'm going to send a little bit of this into the hive right now. I'm just going to blast it into the front door that they have over here. And I just sent a little bit in. I don't want to overdo it. I'm just trying to get a baseline of a signal going. I don't want them to be too distressed because I don't want them to actually leave, which is a real possibility with bees. They're not captive. And if they don't feel that the home that they're in right now is safe and a good place for them to be, they will leave. They'll abscond. And they'll go live in the woods, and they'll probably do just fine for themselves. But I'd rather they stay here with me. So I'm going to try to make sure that they are comfortable and have what they need. Next thing before I actually go in is to put on my bee suit. I'm not going to go in without that. When you're outside of a hive just standing around, it's totally safe to not have one on. Bees aren't inherently dangerous unless you're disturbing them. But going into their house counts as disturbing them, and you should be protected. All right, with the costume change out of the way, we can get started. Yes. All right. So this is the Summer Island hive. It's again 9 days in. It was installed. They were given 4 bars worth of space in there. Some of these bars had comb on them already. Some of them were new bars, and the queen was left in her cage. So now we need to go in, see if the queen has been released from her cage, and get the cage out and just see what's going on. So let's see what's going on. The bar closest to the door is bar number 7. I'm also going to get my ice ray bottle. So the other tools I have with me here are a bee brush. It's a brush with the bristles are strengthened in just such a way as they'll brush a bee away without hurting it. But it does piss them off. I try not to use it. They really hate it. They'll sting at it. They really don't like it, but it's useful and effective. The more useful protective tool I have here is a spray bottle full of sugar syrup. Bees would care much more about being clean than they do about anything else. So they may die to protect their home, but not if they're dirty. And so you spray them with some sugar, they'll spend their time cleaning themselves off and leave you alone. So with all of my tools, we're ready to check it out. This is bar number 7, closest to the front on Summer Island. Ooh, trying to get a little more space for it. Woo! All right. So this is a bar that already had comb on it. They haven't built this comb since we last saw. But it looks like what they have been doing is collecting water. Maybe some of the syrup that they've actually gathering from the bottles they've been storing in here. But it's covered in bees. It's looking healthy. It's a nice healthy amount to see. And so I'm just gonna try and slide it back in without squishing anyone. Just like that. Easy peasy. All right. Oh, except I put it in backwards. It's important to make sure that the bars are in a consistent orientation because bees don't build them perfectly flat. There are little, valleys and peaks, and you want them to always match up because they've built them with the understanding that the other bar is going to be in the same orientation next to them. All right. Next up, we have bar number 22. Now this is all new comb that they've built. That's pretty cool. So they've built a fairly substantial amount of comb here. It's about maybe 5 inches wide. It's made of 2 main lobes. There's a little tunnel in the middle up top there. That's actually really good. You want them to build those little tunnels. It makes it easier for them to move around the hive, particularly in winter. They may end up closing it up. But you can also see on the side here that there's a bunch of bees that are festooning. That's what they call it when the bees just hang off of each other. And they use that to figure out what natural strong curves are for them to build their comb in. And so it's pretty neat. You can sometimes see them hanging in massive chains, like dozens across, or when it's hot in the summer, they all hang out right hanging from the front door of the hive. Careful, careful, don't squish anyone. Excuse me, buddy. There we go. And there can be thousands and thousands of bees hanging off each other, making a beard hanging off the front of the hive. All right, so that was pretty cool. They built a bunch of new comb there. That's what we were hoping to see. The other nice thing was that it was nice and straight along the bar. It wasn't at a cross angle or anything, so no need to do. Wow, this one's heavy. There's going to be some bees on this. This is bar number 9. What's happening? Whew. Careful, careful. All right. This is another bar that that came from last year. It's not brand new, but they are making it their own. It looks like they're storing sugar syrup in it, eating any pollen that might have been in there at the start. It's looking good. Lots of bees on it. Very healthy looking. We're gonna slide that back in. No sign of any eggs or anything yet, which is the next thing that we're hoping to see, showing that the queen is out and laying. But I'm not too worried about that at this point. Just want to make sure that the queen is out and that everything else is, their numbers haven't crashed too hard and things like that. There's a lot right at the ridge here, so I'm going to spray them with some syrup. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's a tasty treat. It can't be that bad. All right, that was bar number 9. This is bar number 15, which was an empty bar when we installed it. Oh, I can tell there's some crossbar going here. So when I say cross comb, it's a comb that's growing across multiple bars, so I can't just pick it up easily. So we're gonna see. I'm gonna pick up these 2 bars at the same time just to see what's going on. Yeah. So this is the area. That's the queen cage there. But from the other side, they've built these combs at a little bit of an angle, so they're going across between these 2 bars. So I'm going to try to separate the bars without breaking the comb, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Just gently getting in here with a knife, not cutting the bees, just trying to cut the comb straight down so that the bars can be separate. So here's bar 15. Whoop. Looking pretty fragile, but they built a couple lobes of comb on this. We're gonna put this back in. Pretty delicate. All right. Now, a bar that's number 28 is the one that the comb was hanging on. Why is it bad for the comb to be across 2 bars? It's bad for me because I need to be able to lift the bars up easily to look at the comb. And so I need to, if it is growing across 2, I have to try to straighten it. Sometimes they can build it straight across the whole hive if you're not careful, and you effectively can't manage the hive anymore at that point. All right, here's bar number 28, which is where the queen cage is attached. I'm not going to be able to get the cage off without breaking off this bit of comb that they've built around it. There's a bunch of either nectar or syrup in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lay what's left of it by the entrance of the hive so they can reclaim that food. So first I'm just going to try to get some of the more bees off. All right. So, detangling the wires that are holding it on. This one. Here's the other. Cool. So the good news here is that they definitely ate through the comb, ate through the candy that was keeping the queen in the cage. So she's been released. I'm gonna try to separate this bit of wax, just sort of rip it off. And I'm just gonna put this on the ground by the hive so they can just come and get whatever food's in it. Whew, sticky. Definitely got some of that sugar syrup on my hands. It's very sticky now, but that's all right. The bees will probably try to come and clean me off. All right. So that was bar number 28, which is now completely cleaned off. There, none of the comb stayed on that, but that's okay. I've not yet actively seen the queen, but I know she was released. So hopefully we'll see her on one of these other bars. All right, so this is bar number 23. Wow, is this new? No, but this is honey that was, or a comb that was already in there, but they're actively cleaning it out. I think there's actually some eggs in here. That's pretty exciting. It can be sometimes hard to tell. The eggs look like little grains of rice standing up in a hive, but sometimes it can be a little hard to distinguish between that and just the back of the hive, of the comb, which they grow in like a offset hexagon pattern. So it would be pretty neat if those were eggs, but we won't be sure for a little bit. There's definitely some dead bees at the bottom, which is just probably because it was so cold. But by and large, the hive numbers are actually in pretty good shape. Say I didn't actively see the queen, which I would have liked to do, but everything else is looking pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with what's going on here, and I'm going to close it up for now. All right, going to go over to the next hive, which is Grumblewood. See what's going on over here. Need my tools. I had done the Summer Island hive a few tasks already that I need to do here, namely numbering the bars that have never been used. I got up to bar number 30, so the ones that aren't labeled, I'm going to number. So 31, 32, 33, and then I'm going to write the month and year that they were first introduced to a hive, which is 420. And then I'm putting a new symbol this year for making sure that they're always in the same direction. So I'm just putting a star above. Last year I used a little arrow because I'm not necessarily using the bar in the same direction as last year. Just want to make sure that this year they are. Cool. So now they're all labeled. All right, starting with the comb, the bar that is closest to the door here. It is number 2. That actually broke a little bit off when I was putting it in last time, so we'll see what sort of shape it's in. Taking out bar 31 to make space, which is the second bar, has nothing built on it. All right, so here's bar number 2. This is exactly what it looked like last time. Broken off, but we'll just put that back in as it is. We can then put bar 31. Here's bar number 8, which has had comb on it to start, so we'll see what they're using that for. So this is looking similar to the used combs on the other side. They're definitely caching some syrup up here. Not seeing the queen on this bar. Lots and lots of bees, though, for sure. So we'll slide her back in. Next up, bar number 19. Looks like we might have the same cross comb situation with the one next to the queen hive as we had on the other side. So we'll try to separate them safely, but this is bar 19 and 32 together. Let me try to get the camera where you can see it better. Light's terrible. All right. So that's the queen cage fused up, and there's a pretty healthy amount of comb that they've built in the last 10 days. So we have to see if we can separate them without destroying too much comb and get them all lined up. Do try not to squish them. Excuse me, please. Get out of the way. Excuse me. I want to cut your head off. Please. Thank you. Just have to be patient with them. Trying to get them to head. What's promising though is they do seem to be doing a bit of a butt wiggle over here, indicating that the queen's probably around. So I should be very careful trying to separate them also. That's what that means. So I'm actually gonna come back to separating those. Inspect the other bars first. This is bar number 17. This is all fresh built comb, looking pretty good. Oh, there's definitely eggs in here. That's great news. Don't need to make visual eye contact with the queen here for sure. So definitely eggs. That means those eggs will be hatching in 21 days. They'll be capped over in about 10 days. And after that, after 21 days, they come out as worker bees and they start their life in the hive. Excuse me, everybody. Excuse me. I try to be very careful about not squishing bees for a couple reasons. One, just because I don't want to hurt anybody. I want to try to be kind to them. But you also, if you happen to accidentally squish the queen, that's sort of a big deal. This hive, as it is right now, this colony is not in a situation where they could safely survive the loss of a queen and create a new queen for themselves. So we just want to be extra careful not to put them into that sort of situation. All right. So that was bar 17. That was pretty exciting. Had eggs on it, which means there's almost certainly a safe queen. There are situations where a worker will start to lay eggs. That's a bad situation because the worker eggs are all male eggs. The difference between a worker and a queen is that the workers have never been fertilized. They only carry male eggs, and they can't keep a colony going that way. It's just sort of a genetic play for the future, but it's not a play to keep the colony itself alive. This is bar number 18, which is a bar that had existing comb on it. They seem to be using it to store syrup. And oh, there's the queen. Cool. You won't be able to see her, I don't think, in this video, but she actually has a little blue dot on her. I got marked queens this year where they literally have a special safe type of paint, and they put a little dot on her back, and it just makes it a lot easier to see her. I found it kind of stressful last year to be looking for the queen. I would sometimes be able to spot her, but not always. I'm still pretty new, so it can be pretty hard. Last week there was a hive with 2 queens. That was this hive. I thought I saw a second queen. It seems now unlikely that it was actually a second queen because they're all still here for one. One of the main risks if you have a queen that comes in the package is that she'll just leave with all of the other bees. Bees will leave if a place is not suitable for them, and it turns out two queens is not a suitable situation. So the free queen will often just sort of group everybody up, and they'll all leave and go off to the woods. So that didn't happen, and also everything sort of feels normal, which is a sort of abstract thing to say, but these are not angry, aggressive bees right now. Everybody is very docile, very chill. There's a big crack in this comb. This is bar number 6. It has a big crack, and they're not using it for anything. So just something to look out for next inspection. But yeah, I don't think there were actually two queens. I think I probably saw a drone, and because I only saw it for a second, and it was just, that's a big queen, or a big bee. I sort of assumed it might have been a second queen. But drones are also pretty big bees, drones being the male bees, and it was possible I mistook them because they scurried away pretty quickly. So that's what I'm hoping happened, and that seems to be what happened. So I'm just gonna count on that. So now I need to try to go back to the bar where the queen cage is hanging and deal with that. This one seems a bit more entangled than the other side, the Summer Island hive was. So I'm gonna try to be pretty careful here. Fortunately, I know the queen isn't on these bars because I just saw her down on bar 18. So I can be a little less nervous about it. But I still do want to be careful. So we'll see what we can do here. Because it's also just a shame. They've built quite a lot of really nice comb here. So it would be too bad if they lost it. So I'm actually going to move it to the back area so that if it does fall in, it doesn't fall in to the main hive, which would be harder to get it out of. And we'll try to do our work from here. Whoop. Actually just wiggling it, and they seem to be separating a bit. Where are you still connected? So again, I'm going to get in with that knife very, very delicately. Not here to cut bees, just here to cut comb. Oops, definitely broke this off, I think. That's too bad. But you can only do your best in these things. And that's what happened this time. So this is what's left of the big comb that was on that bar. Just a few stuff there. Well, that's too bad. It's nowhere near the end of the world. So we're just going to see what we can do. I'll see if any of this other piece of comb is salvageable. I might be able to affix it to another bar so that they at least have something to build off of. All right. Still just trying to get this queen cage out. So this is a big chunk of comb that I say I might actually try to affix to another bar. I won't do that right now. For now, I'm just going to try to get as many of the bees back into their space as I can before I take it a bit away. So get sort of a close-up of the honey of the comb there. See their perfect little hexagon structures. Take the queen cage off because I'm not saving it anymore. I can just slide it. Whoops. All right. I'll put the bar back. there's eggs in these. Yeah. There were eggs in the bar that I broke, which is a disappointing thing. So I may actually try to fix that sooner rather than later. Just so it'd be great to not lose those. Yeah. Let's be creative on this. All right, so because the bit of comb that I broke off has a bunch of eggs, and it would be awesome to try to help them get their numbers going as soon as possible. I am going to see if I can do any sort of quick repair here. All right. Here's the queen cage. I'm gonna get rid of that. We're gonna put this back over here. Okay. What are we gonna do? We're gonna see if we can fix it. So we have a piece of comb here. We have some comb here. I'm gonna try to lay them flat, get an idea of the space that they're gonna take. All right. I've come back with a hair clip. This hair clip already has wax on it because I've used it in a repair before. It also has some straight zip ties on it. I'm going to see if I actually have any more zip ties. I have some zip ties too, so let's go ahead and see if we can repair this. Exciting stuff. The bees are still trying to take care of these eggs, so they're still hovering around here. They're definitely, a little more aggressive when they're protecting their eggs, so I'll try to be a little bit more delicate with them. And now I'm just trying to figure out the best way to line these up so that I can preserve as much of their work as possible. Okay. All right. Try a clip here. Put a clip here. There you go. These are both now on this hair clip. They're not perfect. There's that big tear in the middle, but it is pretty good. They still have a lot of eggs to take care of in here to hopefully grow into some worker bees. So we're going to try and affix this to a bar and get it back in. All right. Delicately through. Okay, let's just do it. Where'd the other zip tie go? They're definitely eating a lot of that syrup I spilled right off my fingers, so kind of tickles. So we're actually going to leave. All right. Take this back out. I think I'm... yeah, I think I'm going to not actually attach these to the exact same bar that they were on. There's still a really good base for them to build off of on this bar. So I'll just leave that there. And instead, I think we'll try to affix it to bar 31. Is that close? I take it back. I'm going to put it on the same bar. That's just really for them so that they can know. It's disorienting when things move around in the hive for them. And the nurse bees who are taking care of the eggs, I want them to find them, as soon as they can so they can get back to that care. So we're going to put it back in the same place. And so I am just carefully wrapping the zip tie around, getting it in. Whoops, careful, careful. Carefully, moving the zip tie around so I can tighten it. All right, nice. Okay, now it's fixed. I'm going to try to get the other zip tie going though as well, so it's a little more secure. Whoop. I did just get stung. When you get stung, it's really important to get the stinger out as fast as you can. You do that with your nail sliding to the side. You want to get the stinger out because it still has a bunch of venom in it. And you want to prevent it because it continues to pump venom into your body for up to a minute if you leave the stinger in. And it'll hurt a lot more, and it'll also leave a bunch more attack pheromones for the other bees to come hunt after. It sort of just feels like a pinch, and then it sort of builds into what feels like a burn. It sort of feels like I think a burn is the best description, is what it feels like right now. And then it'll pass. So I need to finish what I'm doing now before I can, react to the fact that I've been stung by it here. I just feel kind of bad that because of my heavy-handedness here, they felt the need to sting me, and they died as a result. So I'm going to try to be more careful and close out so that they can get back to their life. This is my second year, was the question. The question was, how long have I been doing this? Last year I had a hive. This hive was my only hive, Grumblewood, and it was doing really well until the fall, when in Massachusetts there was an outbreak of equine encephalitis, which is a mosquito-borne disease. And the town that I live in began aggressively spraying for mosquitoes, and unfortunately my bees were caught in the crossfire, and so they weren't able to make it to winter. So that was pretty disappointing and hard. I had registered as no spray, but they were using a spray that that's supposed to be safe, but it's only bee safe when it's dry. And they sprayed it on some trees that were right in front of a little creek where my bees drink from. So of course, when it gets to the little creek, it's not dry, and so they were drinking the poison, and it destroyed the hive. So that was a bummer. But one of the reasons that I have two hives now is that there are things you can do if you have two hives to try to help mitigate a catastrophe like that. You can move eggs or brood over from one hive to the other, and you can try to jumpstart the hive that's suffering and give them a better chance to move on successfully. It was just a really rough time for it to happen too, for them to have suffered that huge setback in I think it was like late September or something like that. There was just no real chance for them to recover in time to set the hive up for success for winter. So there's a lot of preparations they need to do for winter, and I can't do them for them. They need to get their honey stores set up properly. They need to control the airflow through the hive with the propolis. Where are they sealing up air gaps? Where are they building ventilation? And they just did not have the resources for that. So unfortunately, that colony collapsed, which about 40% of colonies every year will fail. So it's not, it's not that it was so much a surprise, but it was definitely a disappointment. A colony, any given queen could survive for up to 8 years. So it's, sad to know that she only had a few months, and on top of that, they were in just such good shape. So hopefully this year we'll be able to have two thriving hives, and maybe both of them will survive through the winter, which would be really exciting for me. The pain of the bee sting is starting to pass, which is nice. If you get stung by a bee, it's really important not to freak out. Usually you'll want to walk away because they do release some pheromones when they sting you that tell the other bees that you're a threat. It doesn't really seem like I got a whole lot of threat pheromone. I got the stinger out pretty quickly. No other bees came to attack that finger. So only that one bee was lost, which is a bit of a relief for me. I also didn't smoke this hive. It seemed like they didn't really need it because they were pretty passive at the start. But I think when I was messing around with those combs that had eggs in them, they got a bit more defensive, and that's that's understandable. So I feel bad that I didn't prepare them enough that they felt the need that they needed to sting me. But other than that, this was a pretty successful inspection. I didn't confirm that Summer Island's queen is around, but she was definitely got out of the cage, and their bee numbers are looking pretty good. Over at Grumblewood, I saw the queen with my own eyes, and they are laying lots of eggs. So Grumblewood, while the numbers are actually a little lower looking than Summer Island, they're definitely set up to really get going quickly this year. So I think I wouldn't be surprised to see them overtake Summer Island in activity pretty quickly. And with that, both hives are closed up. They've both been inspected, and I think that's about it. So thanks all for watching. If I know you, I'll probably send you a link again next time I inspect, which will be in roughly 10 days, a week, 10 days. It really depends on the weather. I'll be basing it always based on the weather. But if you're interested, you can subscribe, and you'll get, I think, notifications when I schedule them. I'll always schedule an inspection at least a day or two before I actually go in, based on, I say, the weather I'm looking at. And with that, that's all that I have. So I'll say goodbye. Goodbye. If I can figure out how to end the stream, which I cannot. Oh, that was cool. Big hawk just flew by. All right. Where's this button? I'll find you. Oh, there it is. All right. Bye.